Today we're going to be installing sound deadening material, and what you use this for is to reduce road noise in a vehicle typically. I also think it's going to make it quieter inside the van when I'm parked. So if I'm at a noisy campground or in an urban setting, I will get less ambient noise in the van and will be able to sleep better. At least that's the theory. We're going to try it out. We're going to see what happens. So let's get started. So what's cool about this job is you don't need a whole lot of equipment to get this done. I have 72 square feet of the actual material itself, which I think is likely going to be too much, but we'll see. And then I'm just using basic hand tools to take apart the interior. That's probably the most complicated part of this. And then I've got a little roller here to tamp down the insulation, and apparently that's really important. This roller probably looks kind of janky, and that's because it is. I designed and 3D printed this last night because the roller that I ordered from Amazon did not come in time. And then I remember this material being pretty hard to work with, so we're going to try 3 different methods of cutting it. We've got tin snips, regular box cutter, and then cheapo scissors. So if you're planning to install this material in the front of the van, you'll notice that you're going to need to pull this carpet up, which will involve, in most cases, taking the seats out. And what you need to know about most modern cargo vans is that most of them have side airbags in the seat itself. And before you pull that seat out, you need to make sure that the whole electrical system, specifically the airbag monitors, is completely discharged. So the first thing we're going to do today is disconnect the battery and start letting it discharge. And I've heard that it can take upwards of 2 hours for this system to fully discharge. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually disconnect both terminals, and then right before we unplug the seats, we're going to touch those 2 terminals together. And you don't want to do that right away because you could get a really massive discharge, and that could cause sparks or damage some electronics in the van. I said I was going to touch these terminals together, but they actually can't reach, so I'm just going to touch this positive to the ground strap. Okay, hot tip, if you're pulling out the seats on your Transit Connect, might be similar on other vehicles, all you need to do is undo this bolt here. That pops out, and now the wiring on the seat is totally separated from the vehicle. I can't get this this piece of the dash out because the shifter's in the way, but thankfully under this little cover here there's a thing called the shift lock override. So you just press down with a screwdriver and boom, you can be in any gear. Obviously make sure that your parking brake is set and the wheels are chalked when you do this, otherwise you might be going for a ride. Found something we didn't want to find. Put my finger on this and noticed it was moist, and then yeah, that's mold. Alrighty, so we are finally ready to start putting the sound deadening material in here. I honestly think the hardest part is preparing the van and getting all the surfaces clean, getting all the interior trim out so that you can sound deaden. Obviously, if you have like a legit cargo van, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of work to do as far as removing trim and pieces, at least in the cargo area. But in my case, because this was a passenger van, there was actually quite a lot. Anyways, I'm going to start with this panel here. And what you want to do here is just roll down all of the mesh pattern so it looks flat. And I broke my roller. Alright, we're going to do the old knock test with half of it up. Sounds the same, honestly. Test. So we're again going to do this super scientific knock test. I have the whole ceiling covered, at least as much as I'm going to, so I think that's better. So there are a lot of different places that you could potentially put this deadening material. You could put it in here or on these panels, even on here. And I think what I'm trying to do is find the panels that resonate the loudest. So I'm just going to hit the panel softly with my finger. Okay. You can see like up here, that's pretty dead, but right there, that really sings. So I'm going to put some material right here. And then of course this is super loud. And then that's not too bad, but this is really where I want to focus my efforts. So with the seats and the carpet out, it seemed like a good idea to get some wiring done. This is the connector for the traction control module, and I've put an interrupt switch to the power for that module. I've got this cigarette plug here. There's already two plugs in the dash, but I want to put this one on a relay so that I can charge my phone from the car battery without the engine running. And then we've got the 4-gauge wire. This is going to be used to deliver power from the alternator to my RV batteries. And so I've got that run here. And so it pokes out here. There's actually some nice bulkhead connectors that made it really easy to run that wiring. And finally, I've got my battery charge monitor set up here. That's going to allow me to see how much current is going from the alternator to the RV batteries. So basically, as you can see, the fuse box is a mess. I haven't even tried connecting power to anything yet, really, but all the wires are there. So in theory, all of the work I need to do should be localized to the fuse box. So today is day 3 of installing the sound deadening material, and I'm not even halfway done. Mostly kidding. I spent most of the day yesterday just doing some wiring and cleaning up the front. And I think if you're installing this material, you don't need to pull the seats and the carpet. There's already a lot of factory sound deadening material underneath the seats and in the front by the dash. I would recommend taking apart the front doors though, because that's really going to reduce road noise. I can already tell that, at least when I close the door, it's much quieter. So I think there's a big win to be had there in the front doors. But that said, I'm glad I did pull everything out and get everything cleaned up and get some wires in place so that I don't have to do that later. So it was kind of a distraction, but good to get that stuff done and in place. Let's get back to it. Something I found is when you're cutting a lot of big panels like this, you get a bunch of these like little pieces left over, and they're actually perfect for going into holes like this. There's actually a lot of room in there to apply this material, but it's hard to get a big piece in there, so you can stick the little pieces in there and tamp them down, and then you're not wasting any material. We are officially done sound deadening the van. I think in all that was a pretty easy task. What made it difficult was all these weird little nooks and crannies in my van. And if you have like a sprinter or something, I think it'll be a lot easier. I will say you definitely want to wear gloves. I did not the first day, and all my fingers are pretty torn up from both the foil on the material itself and just like all the sharp sheet metal, because I was reaching my hand deep into these cracks and crevices to try to push material up in there. It's raining right now, and the sound of the raindrops is definitely different than it was before, so it's kind of muffled, which is kind of nice. It's a more peaceful sound than So to be honest, I'm not totally convinced that this is a worthwhile upgrade to the van. There are a few negatives. One of them is that right now the floor is sticky, so I got to get the subfloor in there, but the material itself is kind of messy, and good luck ever removing it. So you want to be careful where you put it, and it might get in the way in the future. One of the mistakes I made is that I put material where I want to put my vent fan eventually, so that will be wasted material, and I'm going to be sawing through this stuff, so I'm not looking forward to that. Also, those two packages together, I think, weighed almost 70 pounds. So the cargo capacity of this van is 1,600 pounds, and I don't want to be rolling around at full capacity, so I'm probably shooting for somewhere around 1,000 or 1,200 pounds, and I've used up a significant amount of that budget, over 5% of that budget, just with this material. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're going for an ultra lightweight build, absolutely don't put this material in here, because I think it's unnecessary, and it's pretty heavy and expensive for what it is. But I'm still really glad I did it, because I don't like road noise. I'm also a light sleeper, so for me, anything I can do to make it a little bit quieter in here is going to be worth it. So overall, I'm happy with it, but I don't really know how much of an effect this has had on the road noise or the ambient noise in here. It's pretty unscientific, so I guess we'll see if I'm happy with it in the long run. Alright,